At the height of the summer driving season, Americans are finally catching a break at the pump.
We just got to adjust to what the new normal is. And the new normal is the gas prices are coming down.
Oil prices have dropped as fears of a recession take hold, while some drivers may be intentionally using less gas than before.
The two key factors contributing to these lower gasoline prices are the price of oil, which has come down in the past couple of months, and there's been less demand, and that may be because fewer people are driving right now.
80% of gas stations in the U.S. are now charging less than $5 a gallon.
Has this made a difference so far?
It's made a slight difference, yeah. Every little bit counts.
Prices are lowest across the Southeast and highest out west. In California, where about 12% of Americans live, the average gallon is still above $6.
I haven't noticed. It's still the same for me, you know, it still burns really fast.
And even in the state with the cheapest gas, drivers are still paying $1.38 a gallon more than they did at this time last year.
Because stations are probably sitting on thousands and thousands of gallons of gasoline that they bought at a far higher price. So they're going to want to sell through that. Then they'll get access to some of the lower prices.
While people may be cutting back on their day-to-day driving, AAA says many families are still hitting the road for summer vacation, with a record number of travelers taking to the highways over the 4th of July week.
You'd think with these high gas prices, folks might have chosen another way of traveling. But it also came at a time where people are also looking at the issues with the airlines, with the long lines, delays and cancellations. And they may have figured, you know what, forget about it. I'm just going to go in the car.
In March, 75% of people surveyed told AAA they would definitely change their driving habits or lifestyle when gas hit $5 a gallon. This morning, those changes may finally be making a
The average cost of a gallon of regular gas has plunged 19 cents over the past 2 weeks, and drivers could see even lower prices as oil price cuts continue. So here to discuss is a Bloomberg Oil Futures reporter, Julia Franzeres. Thank you so much for joining us. So listen, what are some of the factors weighing into why we are seeing this drop? Because you remember, part of the blame was being put on Vladimir Putin and Putin's war. Obviously, the war is still raging. So why are we seeing the price drop?
A lot of it has to do with these recessionary fears. Now the oil market, where prices had spiked because Russia invaded the Ukraine, well, now people are afraid that the demand is going to lessen significantly if a recession comes. And that has brought crude prices plunging. And when crude prices plunge, so do gasoline prices. And that's why we have seen one of the biggest declines in gasoline prices on record. One day it decreased, the biggest drop since 2008. And that is because crude prices continue to drop below $100 a barrel.
So where are we seeing the biggest price drops, and why are those areas seeing the biggest dips?
So historically, the places where they have the cheapest gasoline are actually places where it's closer to where there are refineries. So we're seeing in Texas, Oklahoma, they are still now enjoying, again, the low gasoline prices that they once enjoyed before we saw these huge price hikes. Obviously, on the coasts, we still see higher gas prices, but the great news is that on average, gasoline prices have decreased below $5 a gallon, which is the great news for Americans. But still saying that the 4th of July, prices were still at a record high. So there is still ways to go before Americans truly stop feeling the price at the pump.
A few weeks ago, the president was proposing a federal gas tax holiday, and he was also encouraging states to do the same so, drivers could get a little bit of a break. Some states have actually experimented with their own version of that. How's that working out?
So experts say that that does not help in the long term. And that's because if you look at simple supply and demand, if the demand is still high for gas prices, but then you lower the price of it, more people are actually going to go and buy gas. And then in the long term, that's going to increase the gasoline prices. So it's not actually going to help in the long term. It would only be a Band-Aid solution in the very short term. So a lot of experts say that this is not the best way to go about that.
Right. And of course, at some point, the gas tax has to come.
Want a game like a pro? Find gear your way with the Google app. Tap the lens icon.
Gas prices hit an all-time high this year, with the price that we pay at the pump skyrocketing to an average of over $5 a gallon, with some parts of the country like California being even as high as almost $7 a gallon. While oil markets are incredibly complicated, 9/11, the global financial collapse of 2008.
We're going to turn now to some good news at the gas pump. Prices are finally starting to fall. Americans hitting the road have seen a steady decline. But how long will the price break last? Our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, joins us with more. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Robin. And that is the question on people's minds after these 21 days where we've now seen prices fall. The national average this morning, $4.77, down about 9 cents over the last week. And if you look across the country, about 80% of the stations are now below $5 a gallon. And this is all because prices of oil have also come down, now below $100 a barrel. We've seen that demand really destroyed. People choose to drive less when they see prices where they are, and that's exactly what we've seen. And it's not just oil prices that are lower, but commodities, cotton, copper, lumber, they are all decreasing. That lumber, by the way, if you're trying to build a house, much better deals on lumber prices. So good news for you there as well. However, the issue is this question of whether or not we're facing a slowdown or a recession. And Robin, that's part of what's also hitting prices here. If we have a recession, if we move in that direction, you're also going to see oil prices likely fall as well.
That will be likely. But for people, Rebecca, who are trying to figure out if they should maybe fill up today or wait until the weekend in case prices drop even more, what are you hearing?
The fact is that my message to Congress is this. This is the strongest bill you can pass to lower inflation, cut the deficit, reduce health care costs, tackle the climate crisis, and promote energy security. All the time while reducing the burdens facing working class and middle class families. So pass it. Pass it for the American people. Pass it for America. The fact is,
so Gas Buddy tells us this morning, Robin, that prices should fall in the coming weeks.
It's hard to overstate the impact internationally of the United States getting this done. With the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, President Biden is back, and the United States would be back at the table as climate leaders and really, really putting our money where our mouth is in terms of our commitment and our expectation that other.
We are also following news out of Capitol Hill, where there appears to be a breakthrough on President Biden's economic agenda. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he has reached a deal with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on what they're calling the Inflation Reduction Act. It will invest $300 billion in deficit reduction and nearly $370 billion in energy security and climate change programs over the next 10 years. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killion joins me now with the latest on Capitol Hill. Hey there, Nicole. So what does this legislation include, and how does it aim to actually fight inflation?
Well, Lana, as you mentioned, towards that aim, as well as about $369 billion for those climate and energy programs. But in addition to that, it will also allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices, which hopefully would lower